Ryan Garcia, this Ye, I'm on the nitrous.
I was at the dentist's office the other day. I was taking a nitrous oxide. I suggested if anybody's like stressed out.
You read the title correctly. The Kanye West situation is truly insane, crazy, sad, whatever buzzword I put in the title, because it seems that Kanye has become addicted to nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a very dangerous thing to be addicted to, and it's great to watch people on TikTok use buzzwords to try to confirm that it is actually a bad thing by saying terms like, we're so cooked.
Completely and irrevocably cooked.
The Kanye situation is truly insane. He's doing a thing that you should never do. Why do they all talk like that, man? It's like TikTok accent. Now, this was exposed by Milo Yiannopoulos. I probably said his name wrong. Triple Red, Carmela Harris, Good Kid, Mad City. There's a lot of pronunciations that I can't say properly. Now, just to give some context, nitrous gas is colorless, non-flammable, and it's a depressant like alcohol, basically used during medical procedures to calm someone down. Hopefully, you guys have never tried it before, but basically, it's known as laughing gas or whippets. I'm not sure why it's called a whippet. That's like the slang name for a dog in the UK. So, like a lot of drugs, it does mellow you out, but the problem is it is incredibly addictive. Now, the problem is with nitrous, to abuse it recreationally and not in like a medical setting is incredibly dangerous. Surprise, surprise, you've had life-changing surgery and the doctor gave you some morphine for the pain. You then take the morphine home and start injecting it into yourself every day. Bad things happen. Surprise, surprise. Now, there are loads of complications from nitrous gas. Kidney damage, liver damage, brain damage. I actually remember a news report last year of a girl that was abusing nitrous dioxide, laughing gas, to get a little high, and she ended up being in a wheelchair. Now, the main reason is because nitrous oxide gives an incredibly short high. I think it's around 5 seconds or something. So obviously, you're not going to take one hit and that'll satiate you. You're going to want to keep going. I'm looking at this news article here, and she started off in packs of 24 every few months, and then it became 24 every day, up to 700 canisters a week. Wherever you guys live, you might see these on the street. They look like these little canisters that you use to like refill like pressure in BB guns or something. That's what I wish they were for, but 9 times out of 10, that means someone on your street is using them to get high. So you're probably wondering, if you're inhaling the funny fart canister, how does that put you in a wheelchair? Well, the main reason is you get nitrate oxide overdose, your brain gets clogged, so basically you get permanent nerve damage. This girl lost all sensation in her arms and her feet. And I'll be honest, it's really weird to hear the game theories that Kanye could be hooked on this stuff, because the only time I've ever heard of laughing gas being used outside of a medical setting is basically like kids just abusing it at like house parties and stuff. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it seems to be like kind of a lower class drug, if that makes sense. So for someone like Kanye, a literal multi-millionaire, to get hooked on it, it just seems really bizarre. It's funny because laughing gas in the UK actually became so bad that they classified it as a C-class drug. Like, it's basically the lower end on the drug spectrum, the lesser sentence, but it wasn't even classified as a drug before. They had to put it into a category because so many people were basically just spamming it every day. I actually remember as well, there was a lot of investigations, and it was so like comedically easy to get your hands on nitrous oxide. Basically, all you had to do is call up like a cake company and say that you were buying a crate of nitrous oxide for the cake. And the reason for that is because the NOS, the nitrous oxide, basically whips the cream faster than if you just did it by hand. I mean, I'm not joking. Look at this. I just pulled this up on a website now. I can buy these. Like, I don't know if there's any verification or anything, but I could literally buy a pack of 98 cartridges, and they are the exact same as the ones that you find like lying on the streets and stuff. We'll get into how Milo has involved himself in this story in just a second, but I do actually want to focus on Milo for just 1 minute. So this guy has a very, very controversial past. Like, for example, getting banned off Twitter for harassing Leslie Jones, being a former editor of the alt-right site Breitbart News, apparently advocating for pedophilia, and working for other alt-right figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And also on top of that as well, most importantly, working on Kanye's presidential campaign.
America. What is America's destiny? What is best for our nation?
Netanyahu, what do you have to say? What do you have to say to Alex Jones right now, Nick Fuentes and Ye? It was bad. It was bad for Trump to meet with Nick and Ye. Okay.
Remember when he ran for president a couple of years ago and it ended up just him crying on the stage with a bulletproof shirt on?
But even if my wife were to divorce me after this speech, she brought North into the world, even when I didn't want to. She stood up and she protected that child. My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to abort me. There would
And then after Kanye's presidential campaign ended, Milo was actually moved over to working as chief of staff for Kanye's brand Yeezy, which, by the way, is such a wild transition, basically going from like political commentator to working with Kanye on clothing. But unfortunately, that came to a close around May this year when Milo basically said he was stepping down. He didn't want to work there anymore, mostly because he wanted to pursue making and directing pornographic films. So Milo's history has been wild, to say the least. I feel like this guy has lived like 7 lifetimes of what the average person goes through. But after leaving Yeezy, he actually started to share some pretty concerning news about Kanye publicly. So this is when the public as a whole was made aware that Kanye could possibly be completely hooked on nitrous oxide. And then people started to put 2 and 2 together. There was clips of him on social media and interviews mentioning nitrous oxide, and those started to go viral.
And Garcia, this Ye, I'm on the nitrous.
And I was at the dentist's office the other day. I was taking a nitrous oxide. I suggested if anybody's like stressed out.
Now, again, NOS is a really weird drug to get hooked onto. I mean, stuff like cocaine, that's kind of associated with the higher class. I mean, it's not in the UK, but I mean, you know, I think there was one guy in Succession that had like a cocaine problem. So there's a lot of people on Wall Street and stuff that probably touched that drug. You know, usually the drug pipeline is you smoke a bit of weed. The weed doesn't hit it anymore. And then you move on to a stronger and stronger drug. I know the whole boomer thing that like weed is a gateway drug, but in some situations, depending on your lifestyle, who your friends are and where you live, it definitely can be a gateway drug. But again, like NOS is like not even on that spectrum. How the hell did you get addicted to it in the first place? Well, like I said at the beginning of the video, it's used in a medical background. So Milo is actually claiming that his dentist, Thomas Connolly, who is Kanye's dentist, is actually the guy that got him hooked on nitrous dioxide. So in this Twitter thread, Milo basically goes into detail how he looked into this and he tried to intervene with Kanye, and that's when their relationship fell apart. You know, especially when Kanye announced that the news about Yeezy producing porn, and then he goes into detail about Thomas Connolly, including saying that this is the same guy who put fake diamonds in multiple African-American musicians like Lil Yachty. Although after that, he pretty much does retract the statement about Lil Yachty, saying he was informed that he got the info wrong about the legitimacy of the diamonds. Milo then links his affidavit, which is basically a written document containing information that is true from an affiant. Basically, to paraphrase or to put it in like much more simpler terms, Milo is basically taking an oath on Twitter that the information revolving Kanye is true. Now, looking deeper into Milo's affidavit, where he describes the background on why he's reliable to even speak on the matter, because to be fair, this guy has been in a lot of weird circles, so a lot of people could easily write this off as a bitter employee that left, and now he's starting to talk shit for clout. Now, Milo claims that Connolly, his dentist, has actually done multiple acts to Kanye, including physically moving like 4 canisters of nitrous gas into his home, and apparently charging $50,000 a month for the services, even continuing to give Kanye this supply of NOS when there's obvious health concerns that are starting to arise. He actually goes on to say as well that Connolly wanted to move in with Kanye just to constantly administer and take care of this guy with nitrous oxide. If anything, that reminds me of the situation with Michael Jackson and Comrade Murray, but this is like an even more extreme degree. If you don't know who Comrade Murray is, he was Michael Jackson's house physician, and in 2011, when Michael Jackson died, he was actually convicted of involuntary manslaughter for giving Michael Jackson too much propofol, which is an anesthetic usually to help people go to sleep. Basically, the rest of the document goes on about how Kanye got this titanium grill installed, which I'm sure you've all seen, like he's been flexing it constantly, and during that operation he was probably under nitrous oxide, and that could be when his addiction actually started. Apparently, he was very dependent on the gas and he was openly talking about it. And apparently, from Milo's own words, when he became aware that Kanye was hooked on NOS, he tried to talk Kanye out of it, and Kanye basically kind of like eased him into quitting to basically stop being a pressure on him to quit NOS. Now, after Milo dropped his affidavit, he tweeted that Eric Soe, who is still on Kanye's team, was basically going around threatening people for sharing on Kanye fan pages this whole addiction that Kanye has, because obviously this makes the guy look terrible. And then he also goes on to some weird tangent saying that Eric is like a Drake fan as well. And if you think that this situation can't get any more crazy, Milo shows a bunch of additional interactions between himself, Kanye, and the dentist Connolly. After Connolly basically publicly came out and said, oh, Milo is talking a bunch of shit. I do not have this guy hooked on NOS. I'm definitely doing nothing of the sort, living in his house rent-free. Now, before jumping into that, we need to dissect what these conversations are actually referring to. The video that Milo sent over shows Connolly heavily pushing nitrous gas, even to the point of people using it recreationally. Never do that, by the way, please. Milo then responds, asking if Connolly is joking, and then Kanye basically jumps on to ask about where he can receive the nitrous. Now, the situation is pretty sad. There's not a lot of jokes to be made, but one joke I am going to make is, why does Kanye have his profile picture set to Golden Freddy Fazbear?
Czy to Freddy Fazbear?
Like, that is not a joke. I thought this was bait or, like, you know, some interaction to make him look bad, and it was just so ironic they used, like, a, you know, Golden Freddy picture. But if you look at the screenshots and the video evidence, like this isn't a hoax. Why did Kanye choose to have his profile picture as Golden Freddy? Like, I get it, right? Discord degenerates. They set their profile picture to, like, anime or, like, some cropped image of their character or something. You know, everyone does that, right? Everyone's a degen on some level. But this guy, who is like a multi-millionaire, he has been, like, you know, such an influential figure for the past, like, 30 years, and he set his profile picture in a conversation to Golden Freddy. Now, this could also be the case that Milo actually set Kanye's picture to Golden Freddy, and that asks even more questions. Like, why does he do that? Does he think that, like, Kanye is a puppet? Is that the reason why? Does he think Kanye is like a rotting corpse? And also, biggest of all, that means Milo is aware of what Five Nights at Freddy's is. Now, this could be in reference to, obviously, when Kanye had that old character, like the, you know, the little bear in the album, like College Dropout. So it could be like kind of a little snide play on that. Now, funny ha-has aside, I think one of the saddest revelations about this whole story is the person that is breaking the news is Milo. And also that means that anything Milo says about Kanye, you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Is it true or not? He's basically trying to paint a picture that the reason why Kanye recently has been so unhinged, he's released albums that just make absolutely no sense. It's just like incoherent mumbling. And apparently a lot of that is just like resampled music, and half of it isn't even really music at all. And Milo is adhering all of that to his constant NOS use. I mean, the conversations with Kanye playing as Golden Freddy, they seem pretty accurate. I mean, I've seen other leaked texts of Kanye in the past. Like, for example, one where there was an employee that woke up a little bit late, and he was basically telling the guy, like, don't bother, you're fired. And then the guy, like, tried to cope, being like, oh no, please give me the job. And Kanye just replied by saying, find God. Now, funnily enough, a lot of people have actually been comparing what Kanye is going through to J.K. Rowling. If you know J.K. Rowling, obviously incredibly famous woman. She wrote the Harry Potter books. That made her an instant sensation overnight. There's an incredibly successful film franchise, but J.K. Rowling has had some pretty controversial takes on trans people, and Kanye has also had some pretty unhinged takes as well. Now, Kanye, we can attribute that to his constant abuse of NOS, but J.K. Rowling, it could be because of the black mold that is inside her home. If you don't know, J.K. Rowling was being roasted for, like, her background picture having a bunch of black mold, and she got roasted so much that she had to, like, update her profile picture so the black mold wasn't there anymore. And now pretty much all the lefties on Twitter are using that against her, saying that she's been huffing so much black mold that, like, it's changed her perception and turned her into a turf. But yeah, honestly, I really hope Kanye gets the help that he needs, because it's really sad. You know, like, as much as I've made jokes and stuff during this story, I do hope he gets the help he needs, because if he dies, that would be awful. I feel like Kanye is in this really shitty situation right now. He's basically the same as someone who's won the lottery and they don't know what to do with it. There are so many horror stories of people that win the lottery and they come from, like, you know, working class background, middle class background. They've never had millions and millions in their account before, and they get all this money and they end up blowing it. And I feel Kanye is in that situation at the minute. He's incredibly wealthy. He might be more controversial than when he was years ago, but he's still incredibly well off. And the problem is, when you have a lot of money, the vultures tend to circle around you. They want some of that cash. And I feel that's exactly what's happening to him now. He's having a bunch of people basically exploit him, take his money off him, and when they can't get his money, they go straight for his clout by trying to defame him online. And it sucks because I don't even feel like he's in a competent state to defend himself.